RISE is the first tool to simultaneously measure strengths or assets within the child or young adult, while also evaluating the presence of risky behavior. This provides the clinician with an opportunity to understand the level of risky behavior as it relates to youth who find themselves in treatment for behaviors related to aggression, substance use, gang membership, and other kinds of risks that teenagers and young adults might engage in. One of the things we've learned is that risky behavior is not equally distributed among youth. For example, when we looked at a group of youth who were in treatment for significant substance abuse, we found that their self-reports about the kinds of substances, the frequency with which they abuse substances, the severity, meaning, for example, drinking alcohol till they blacked out, that those youth were dramatically different from the general population. That sure, a lot of teens may experiment with substances, but the extent that youth in treatment abuse and become involved in those substances is so significantly greater that you can't create average scores about those substances for the general population. It doesn't have any meaning saying that you drink a little bit more or a little bit less than the average kid. That doesn't in and of itself create risk. What creates risk is when you drink or abuse substances at a level consistent with youth who find themselves in treatment for those programs, and not just outpatient treatment, but inpatient residential treatment. The RISE therefore creates cut scores for all 6 risky behaviors. The RISE tells you, based on the youth's report, parent report, and or teacher report, how closely the youth's engagement in that risky behavior, in this case, let's say alcohol, matches students or youth who are in treatment. It helps you understand how close that youth is to perhaps needing treatment or perhaps being similar to youth who are in treatment. So on the risk side, it gives you cut scores. How closely do you match youth to a mild to moderate degree in treatment, to a moderate to significant degree in treatment? On the strength side, it gives you T-scores, meaning an average is 50, a standard deviation is 10, higher is better. So if your score is 60 on the strength scale, it means you demonstrate more of those strength or protective behaviors based on your report or the reports of others than about 8 out of 10 others. So it's an instrument that interestingly is different from others because it doesn't just generate one kind of score or another, and it's designed, again, not to tell you whether the youth is engaging in risky behavior. They tell you. Their parents and teachers tell you. It's designed to inform you as a clinician whether the level of risky behavior they're engaging in crosses a threshold of youth who find themselves in treatment. And this is particularly important in the community when dealing with insurance carriers and attempting to convince them that this child is in need of greater service. This is important in school settings when there's a concern about whether or not a more restrictive special education setting is needed. I created the RISE because, in my view as a practicing clinician, my clinic sees 500 children a year in Salt Lake City. There was a need for a tool like this.